Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and for the last week or so I've been getting really into the strategic resupply priority missions, which overall have been a really cool opportunity to get your hands on some new skins and some fat stacks of cash. But I do want to take a moment to just offer a bit of my own impressions and feedback on the event, since I do think there is one particular standout issue with it that I think is worth highlighting. So if this sounds good to you, then grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it. After everything that's been kicking off in Pyro for the last couple of months, the three core factions, Frontier Fighters, Headhunters and Citizens for Prosperity, are in desperate need of resupply, so a string of high-value Prio contracts have been popping up, demanding bulk commodities like copper, corundum, pressurized ice, tin, RMC and construction mats, as well as the highly volatile debtorine. Now I absolutely love this as a concept, and I think there's a risk that if I dive straight into my biggest gripe, then it's going to sound like I think the whole thing is a bit of a turd, when I really don't. I think it's a great idea to get people to meet a demand for specific resources, linking together a lot of the core industrial gameplay loops with options for mining, salvaging and cargo hauling. And it puts narrative-driven meaning behind a lot of these loops, that we don't tend to have. So I know that ultimately, aside from a couple of cool ship paints, the end result is still largely just credits. But with the story backing and the mission nature of this, and how it sets you out hunting things that you don't normally, then you kind of feel like you're contributing to something bigger. I also think that CIG have got a cool mix of risks in there, with some of the missions taking place entirely in the relatively lawful Stanton system, some allowing you to go farm the mats in Stanton but deliver them to Pyro, while the riskiest missions require you to buy the cargo from dangerous locations within Pyro to take it elsewhere within that system. And finally, the inclusion of small, medium and large contracts is awesome for allowing people who don't necessarily have the biggest ships to get involved. The large missions are there for those with reclaimers, C2s and moles, but the small and medium are perfectly within reach of anyone, particularly now with all the rental options being a lot wider. But there is of course a but, and it's the big reason I've been keen to make this vid. This isn't the first time that CIG have put an event out which includes the trading format, which personally I think is just a bit rubbish. Similarly to the medical supplies element of the Ninetales lockdown event, one of the resupply missions allows you to deliver copper and corundum to Pyro Gateway. And while you could go out and mine these, the lowest risk way to accomplish this is to buy them. The commodities are sold together at Magnus Gateway, for example, and given that you therefore avoid the continuously broken cargo elevators at the mining outposts and can load 32 SU crates in the comfort of your own hangar, this appears to be the route that most people end up funneling down. And the result is this: crowds of people hovering around trade kiosks waiting for the server tick to cross over so that they can maybe get their buy order off first. When you combine this with elongated delays to get out of a hangar at Magnus and into a hangar at Pyro Gateway, then back out of that hangar at Pyro Gateway, I would say that the main gameplay of this particular loop is waiting. And I'm not blaming players for going down this route. Most rational people will opt for the lowest risk option to get the rewards. I think it's on CIG to recognise that this isn't great game design. If I were to get one of my mates to sign up and play Star Citizen today, this isn't something I would go encouraging them to do or get involved in. It's not going to captivate them and leave them wanting to come back for more. But because people want the rewards, many will just feel compelled to suffer through it. Now I am really keen not to label this as the solution. I'm not a game designer, and there might be reasons that this just wouldn't work. But by training I am at least an economist, so I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in and give you my suggestion. If you've got ideas, I would be really keen to discuss them down in the comments, and maybe, just maybe, someone from CIG might stop across the channel and see this. As of today, the devs have recognised the issue and taken some steps to rectify it, drastically hiking the prices for copper and corundum for the period of the event. So the profit margins involved when buying cargo have now been cut from more than 12 million AUEC on the large missions to about 3 million. But you will need a bank balance of just shy of 10 million to buy the cargo in the first place. However, personally, I don't think this is the right approach. Making 3 million in a run is still a very appealing number, and due to the way that you have to refine the materials if you're mining them, it will just take you a lot longer to do this via mining. A lot of people are doing these missions not even for the money, they're doing them for the reputation gain, which is then getting them the associated paints. So I don't think it's necessarily going to get rid of the queuing aspect. And perhaps more importantly, I think it introduces a new frustration factor. SC is very much an alpha game, and around our Discord I've already heard a fair few tales of people having bought cargo only to see their loaded ship despawn and mark as unknown, or just straight blow up on the pad. Punishing players with a minus 10 million to their bank balance for these bugs isn't likely to leave them feeling warm and fuzzy about the event. So first and foremost, I think CIG should shut off buying these commodities completely during an event like this. All these factions are attempting to stockpile, supply should be incredibly constrained. Using commodities like copper and corundum is actually perfect for this. They're not critical to the trade economy, so nobody will miss them temporarily while they're gone from the kiosks. So some players will then be heavily incentivized to go out and create additional supply. Mining the materials, they can then refine them, load them up on their cargo hauler and deliver them to the required location. If there's no other way to achieve the highest payouts, then this becomes a more appealing proposition. And also the amounts required and the time investment can be balanced for one game loop, mining, as opposed to balanced between mining and cargo hauling. But not all people are into the primary industrial pursuits, mining and salvage. Instead they want to focus on the cargo hauling aspect, so what about them? Well, I would simply reflect the increased activity of miners by generating cargo hauling missions from the various refinery stations at the Lagrange points, that require a drop off to the same delivery location. These could pay out a lot less than if you went and mined the goods yourself, so people have the option of owning more of the chain for more profit, but it still gives people the cargo hauling gameplay they want without the waiting gameplay that I assume they don't. And hey, maybe this is just my assumption, maybe some people just love the queues, but as a representative of the British Islands, for whom queuing is a national pastime, even I don't see that as likely. While chatting about this in the Discord, my friend Jules Vega made a really good point, that taking the cargo aspect down the hauling mission route does exclude one group from the equation: pirates. And yes, I know that some people are just going to say good and leave it at that, but the point of this video is to try and suggest things that could make gameplay for us players better around these events, and pirates are people too. Currently the boxes from cargo hauling missions are essentially bonded goods, so they have very little resale value, which in the context of the hauling gameplay loop makes a lot of sense. It removes the chances of players taking the mission and running off to sell the goods for max profit, and it makes them a less appealing target to pirates, who are more likely to go down an extortion route than an all-out blow you up and steal your stuff route. But in this instance, I think CIG could make something of the factions involved in the narrative. Citizens for Prosperity might not be very happy if a pirate turns up and tries to sell them their own cargo, but headhunters probably wouldn't care where it came from. If the different factions each generated hauling missions from different locations, then pirates would be able to plan which routes they wanted to lay their traps on so that they could avoid their own faction. And to avoid fraud in these instances, you could always make these hauling missions have a buy-in element to get that contract. A bond that you'll get back upon safe delivery of the goods along with your payment. Just to make sure that nobody heads down the all-out fraud route. Oh no, I got pirated, what a shame. I don't want to come across as negative on this. I do genuinely think this event goes in a really cool direction, and I very much hope that CIG keep working on it and giving us content like this. But I think one of the coolest things about Star Citizen in general is that we can put our feedback out there, and CIG can take the views of the community on board as they push out their new content. But I do want to make sure I end on a particularly positive note, because if you, like me, don't think the queue simulator is massively fun, then always remember you don't have to do it. I know it's the quickest, lowest risk way to amass a small fortune, but ultimately I always like to remind myself that we're meant to play games to have fun and enjoy what we're doing. So I've been enjoying this reason to put a crew together and head out on the Reclaimer or the Mole, salvaging and mining stuff that we usually wouldn't look at twice. Or events like this one that we ran on Monday night, with crews of scouts heading to the various outposts of the system to recover abandoned ships and tidy up the place, bringing them out to our makeshift salvage yard in the Aran Halo for the swarm of vultures and fortunes to devour. If you are looking for a group to get involved with or make some new mates in game, then please do hop into the Discord via the link in the video description down below. With all that said, I just want to say thank you very much for watching all the way to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.